Hi, I'm Kathy Holloway Hill, and welcome to this episode of Living by Design. Today, we are on the beautiful campus of Home of the Innocents in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. And our topic today is a journey of transformation. And our guest, Miss Sha Jackson, is going to inform you and help you transform your life. Hi, I'm Kathy Holloway Hill, and welcome to Living by Design. We have an amazing show for you today. We have a young lady by the name of Sha Jackson, and you absolutely have to hear this story to believe it. When we get to a point in our lives where we allow our journey to stop us, that's what we don't want. But Sha Jackson found a way to use her story and use her journey to design and define her life. And Sha Jackson, we are so happy to have you here with us today. You are an amazing woman.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Mrs. Hill.
Yes, absolutely. Now, and for those who don't know, our viewers, I met Sha through Facebook, and her story was so compelling, and I had her actually interview on my radio show, Living by Design. So I was so excited that she agreed to come and speak to my viewers for the TV show because I really want to get her story out there. So, Sha, let's just go ahead and jump right in and talk about this amazing book, which is called Booty Call, It's the Truth. And it is the truth, and it's an amazing truth. So we're just going to kind of start from the very beginning. Okay. In your childhood, what was some of the things that led to your low self-esteem in your childhood? Talk a little bit about that and how all of that happened and came about.
Well, I believe some of the things that led to my low self-esteem was when I began to realize that I was different than a lot of other people, children my age. I was very dark complexion. I was overweight. I was top heavy. And so I was made fun of a lot. And it started with relatives and even into the schools. Okay,
so your relatives were actually telling you, now when we say relatives, are we talking about adults or children in the family?
Both. Like the adults, you know, your uncles would come over and say, oh, she's just so cute and just so plump. Oh, she's just so black. And, you know, wow. And then your sisters, you know, some of my sisters would, you know, out of just making fun, you know, they would kind of joke and say little things. And so one day I just kind of took a look around and I said, well, I am the darkest out of the other three sisters, and I am the largest out of the other three sisters. And so then I kind of like began to feel like the little ugly duckling. And I used to love the Cinderella story because I felt like her.
Oh, bless your heart. Mm-hmm. So, and I can imagine with that happening, that you felt like you said, you know, that you were different and you were the one who was the ugly child, for lack of a better word. So
the black sheep of the family
exactly,
is what they call it.
The black sheep of the family. Yeah, literally the black sheep of the family, because that's how they were making you feel.
Right.
How did you allow that to push you toward doing things that you really didn't want to do?
Well, at the time, I just kind of suppressed it and just tried to move on, you know, with life in school. I just would, you know, suppress it and try to make friends. I did have a lot of friends, but there were the mean ones, you know, that made fun of you. There was, you know, a lot of kids that I fought because of it. You know, they would come and put their hands on me and different things. So, but then as I got older and the molestation started, then...
Now, who was the molestations from?
At first it started with a relative, and then it was a neighbor. And so when that started, because of everything that I had been told prior, you kind of feel like you deserve this. And then I was the type of person where I didn't like to hurt anybody, even though I was being hurt all the time. Right. I didn't like to hurt anybody, and so part of me knew that I should tell, but then, you know, they tell you don't tell, don't say anything. then you feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't. So just literally in a state of confusion.
Wow.
And so I just dealt with it the best I knew how, which was silence. Just don't say anything.
So you would go home in your room and cry and just, like you said, deal with it in your way, in your emotional way?
Sometimes I didn't even have to go home. I would just, you know, sometimes I would cry inwardly without even shedding tears.
Really? Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Now, you talked about the molestation from family members, but what about, because I know there's a lot in the book about these early days and a lot of things that you experienced. Was it a lot of it going on in school as well?
It just seemed like when I was a child, starting with the molestation on up to my early 20s, before I actually became sexually active, it just seemed like people were just always after my body.
Right.
But my goal was to stay a virgin until I married. That was my goal. I set that goal early on as a child. And when I had no desire to be sexually active, people were just pulling on me all the time.
Wow.
And so then one day I just was like, what is it? Why is it that, I mean, I could just be walking down the street. One incident in particular, I was on my way home coming down the street, and this car pulled up and stopped in front of me. And when I approached, you know, I was walking by, and I looked over like, you know, why are they sitting there? It was a man in the car, and he was exposing himself. And so I just took off running, and I'm running and I'm crying. I'm like, why does this kind of thing keep happening to me?
Right.
You know, so it was just things like that.
At what point, what was your defining moment that made you realize, I'm in trouble? My life is not headed down the right path.
I actually knew that the first time I took a drink.
Okay.
But, you know, he was my boyfriend, and he offered it to me. And so I just started out small, sipping a little alcohol, you know, smoking a little reefer, smoking cigarettes, and thinking it was totally harmless. But at the time when I started doing those things, I knew it was wrong. I knew it was wrong, but I just continued, and it got progressively worse, literally progressively worse.
Hold that thought. We're going to come right back after the break, and we're going to hear a lot more from Sha Jackson and her amazing story.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Living by Design show with Kathy Holloway Hill, Sundays at 6 p.m. on WHMB TV 40.
Welcome back to Living by Design. We're here today with Sha Jackson talking about a journey of transformation, and what a magnificent journey of transformation you have had. So let's go back out to Los Angeles and just talk to our viewers a little bit about what were some of the things that had started happening to you to make you realize, oh, I've hit rock bottom.
I realized I had hit rock bottom when one time in particular I had went to my mother's house, and it was time for me to leave and go back to my apartment. And I was walking up the street to catch the bus, and I had some things in some grocery plastic bags, and I said, here I am walking the street, literally like a bag lady. And I knew I needed help, but I didn't know how to get the help. And so I just got on the bus and went on back to my apartment. And so I knew I needed help. I knew I needed to stop, but I could not stop myself.
What were some of the drugs that were your drug of choice at the time?
I started out with alcohol, then I started smoking weed, and then I tried pills like purple microdots, hallucinative drugs, and then I tried PCP, I tried heroin, and then when I tried freebase and cocaine, that's when I was hooked. And that was the drug that I never stopped using until I got delivered.
Okay.
Was freebase and cocaine.
Okay. What was it about that that just really compelled you or kept you there, kept you hooked on that?
It was the high. I liked the high. And then I liked...
There are all different types of highs for everything, all the different drugs that you just named. There are different types of highs.
Right. They're all different. But it was something about the freebase. And I think it was not just the high for me. It was just the whole process. You know, the meeting the people, the type of people that I was meeting. And, you know, you go to the parties in the penthouse and, you know, you're sitting there smoking all night and, you know, being picked up and riding around in big fine cars. And all of that came to an end when you end up walking up and down the street, smoking in back alleys and abandoned houses. No more penthouses. You're in abandoned houses with no furniture and no lights, and you don't even have the fancy pipes. You know, I'm smoking out of old TV antennas with dirty screens in them. And normally we would smoke with 151 rum. You would light it and make a fire. And I ended up smoking with butane torches and propane torches and cigarette lighters. And I remember one time we had some rubbing alcohol, and we dipped a cotton ball in that and lit it, and when I smoked it, it literally felt like my chest was on fire. But that's when I knew. Not only was, because I used to be like a functioning addict. I would go to work and then, you know, do my drugs and club, but then it got to the point I didn't have a job. And your sole purpose in life is to get some money so you can get high. Exactly. You wasn't concerned with eating. You wasn't concerned with anything but how can I get some more money so that I can get high. And that's when I knew that I needed help.
Right. And you found yourself in several dangerous situations.
Yes.
Where you felt like your life was at risk or at stake in several. Talk about just a couple of those.
There was one incident where I had some money and I was going to a gentleman's house to purchase some cocaine, and I was going to be able to smoke it there. And a guy pulled up in a car and he wanted me to get in. He was going to give me a ride to where I was going, and I said, well, it's right up the street. I don't need a ride. And he kept wanting me to get in, and he looked like one of my mother's customers. So I was just talking to him, and I was like, I'm going right up the street. No. And he said, oh, come on, get in. So I got in the car. He made a right at the corner.
Even though you didn't know him?
No, I thought I knew him.
Oh, okay.
Because he looked like one of my mother's customers.
Okay.
My mother had a laundromat.
Okay.
And so he turned the corner, and I said, well, it's right here. Just pull over. I said, I told you it wasn't going that far. So he pulled over to the curb. And so I reached for the door, and I looked back at him to say, you know, thank you, see you later. And he took off. And when he took off, I looked at him, and when I looked at him to say, what are you doing? Then he looked different. I said, I don't know this man. And so I said, where are you going? What are you doing? And he started yelling at me, telling me to shut up, calling me names. And he locked the door, and he started reaching inside of his pocket. And I was like, oh, my God, what is this man going to do to me? And I'm hollering and I'm screaming, please don't hurt me. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not going to see my mother again. I'm not going to see my children. And sick mind, I was like, I'm not going to be able to buy my drugs with this money that I have. All this is running through my mind, right?
Right, absolutely.
And then I heard this voice say, it's power in the name of Jesus. I kept hearing this voice say, it's power in the name of Jesus. So I started hollering, Jesus. And he was like, shut up, you shut up. He had pulled out this knife, and he's steady telling me to shut up. And so then he made a left. He turned another corner, and I'm just screaming, Jesus. And the door flew open. Wow. So when the door flew open, I looked, I said, how did the door open? I know it was locked. I've tried to get out. And I jumped out of the car. When I jumped out of the car, the back tires ran over my legs.
Oh, wow.
And mind you, I'm already high, and I'm going to get high some more. So when he ran over my legs, and it was nighttime, and I opened up my eyes finally, so it's dark, and I'm looking at the black asphalt, I thought I had died and went to hell. And I'm laying there, then I see these red lights, and that's when I looked and saw that he had put on brakes. He was getting ready to back up. And so I jumped up and thought I was going to sprint and realized that I was severely injured. So I kind of hopped and hid behind some bushes until he went on. And then finally I went home and they had to take me to the hospital, to the emergency room.
Wow, I can't even imagine going through something like that. So obviously you went to the hospital that night and you never made it to your original destination, which was to go and get some more drugs.
Well, actually, I was on my way. I had made it all the way to my mother's street. I was about 5 houses from my mother's house. And I said to myself, you know, you might want to go get high. I said, you better go get you a hit because it's going to be painful. So I turned around, hopped and went to another friend's house. Wow. His wife let me in. It was early in the morning. And so I went in, and because they were dealers. And so they gave me the package. I said, well, can I smoke it here? She said, yes. And so we cooked it up, and I started smoking. So her husband came in the room, and he said, what are you doing? And I think some blood started showing through my leg or something. He says, what are you doing? So I explained to him what happened. He got so mad at me and started yelling at me, so he made me put everything up, and he took me home. And he knocked on the door, and he said, ma'am, your daughter, she's injured, and he said I brought her home. And so that's when they took me to the ER.
Okay.
So that's just how the sickness of the disease is. You know, it'll just have you doing crazy stuff.
Absolutely unbelievable. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with more of Sha's amazing transformation and her story.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Living by Design show with Kathy Holloway Hill, Sundays at 6 p.m. on WHMB TV 40.
Welcome back to Living by Design, and we're talking about a journey of transformation today. And the whole purpose here of our show on Living by Design is to make sure that whatever you've been through, everyone has a story. We all have a journey, that you use your journey, use your pain, use your life experience to design and define your life instead of allowing it to keep you down. And that's what we're talking about here today with Miss Sha Jackson, because you did not allow it to keep you down, and you were out there in the city of angels, is what they call Los Angeles, the city of angels, but you weren't having an angelic type of experience out there.
No, was it?
So I know you had talked before break about some of those defining situations and defining moments where you realize, I can't do this anymore. So how did you slowly start to begin to make the transformation of getting off the drugs?
Well, I had went to several rehab places, and you know, I would stay clean and sober for a while, and then I would go right back. I did some jail time, 20 days, clean and sober when I got out for a while, and I went back. But the defining moment, I believe, for me was one night, I had sent this young lady to get some drugs for me, and she stayed gone for a long time. And when she finally got back, she said that someone had took my money from her or something. So I had her take me to the place, and I told her, I said, if you don't get my money or you don't get the drugs, I'm going to kill you. And I told her, I said, and I mean it. And so ultimately I got the drugs, and I didn't smoke at the house we came from. I went to my mother's house, and I sat on the steps in the back of her house, and I smoked the drugs, and then I cried because I didn't like hurting people. And I know what I said to her that night, and I believed I probably would have done it or tried to do it. And that's when I knew. I said, God, either you save me or let me die. I said, because I don't want to hurt anybody. And I know I'm sick. To get to the point to want to kill somebody, I said, I am sick. And so I just really began to pray and cry. And I said, God, maybe if you just get me out of California, I could stay saved. That was one of my prayers. And so summer came, and my mother had arranged with my husband, which we had been separated for like 10 years. For me to come to Kentucky, because he was in the military, and bring the children. And so we came for a 2-week visitation, and he asked me to stay. And I told him, no way, I'm not going to stay here. And we were in the swimming pool, and my daughter had to go to the bathroom. And I took her upstairs to the room to go to the bathroom. And then I remembered, I heard this voice say, isn't this what you prayed for? So I immediately got on the phone and I called my mom. I said, when she was in the bathroom, I said, I'm not coming back. And she cried. She was like, what? I said, I'm not coming back. I said, Michael asked me to stay, and I'm going to stay. And it was like instantly, the desire for drugs was gone. It was gone.
Amazing.
And from 1987 to today, I have never used drugs, never had the desire to use drugs, never had to fight the temptation. It's just gone, like I have never even done it before.
That is
I was totally delivered.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But when you believe in the power of God,
that's right.
And when you know that God lives in you and God is directing you to a higher purpose, it can happen. It absolutely can happen. You're sitting here telling us that it happened to you, so we know it can happen. That's absolutely remarkable, just remarkable. I'm so proud of your transformation and your choices and your decisions, and you used your journey and your pain and those types of things to make the woman you are today. So you have a successful women's ministry now, and so talk a little bit about that. Since you have been clean and everything has been transformed in your life, what are you doing with your life now?
Well, I joined this church, Holiness Church of Deliverance, and I had been there just a couple of years, and I kept sensing in my spirit that we needed a women's ministry. And so finally I went to the pastor and I told her, thinking that she would start the ministry within the church and I would just join and be a member of it. And she looked at me, she said, okay, well then you do it. And I was like, no, I don't. No, not me. She says, no, if God gave it to you, then it's yours, you do it. And so that's when we started Daughters of Destiny Women's Ministry. And we minister to the mental, physical, and spiritual needs of women. And we have helped countless women. And we have met women all over. You know, we travel, go to different women's conferences, and women come from afar to our conferences. And we just do whatever we have to do. And so since then, it's been about 20 years that has been established. I've launched the Young Daughters of Destiny and also Single Mommies Matter. That's my latest project.
I like that.
So this May, we'll be having our 3rd annual Single Mommies Matter luncheon, because there's a lot of single mothers out there. And, oh my goodness, what they're facing and what they have to go through on a daily basis.
Right.
And so it has just been so surreal, so wonderful. Even though we've only we meet once a year, I see them in the grocery store, I see them around town, and they're like, that's Miss Jackson. Oh, I love you, Miss Jackson. You know, the first thing one of the girls told to me when she called on the phone to make her reservation, she said, I want to ask you a question. I said, okay. She said, why are you doing this for us? I said, because the Lord told me to. She said, I just can't understand why anybody would want to do this for us. And so I said, because single mommies matter. And so we like to have it around Mother's Day because, you know, a lot of times they don't have anyone to give them something for Mother's Day.
Right.
Children are small. There's no men in their lives. So I'm just excited about where God's going to take this ministry. So
I'm sure you are.
And then the jail ministry, where we minister to women in there.
Absolutely. So what is the website? If someone wants to read about or learn more about your ministry, what's the website?
The website is shajacksonministries.vpweb.com.
Awesome.
shajacksonministries.vpweb.com.
The book is available via Amazon, or they can purchase it from your website. Either one?
They can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or ZulonPress.com.
Okay.
Or they can contact me on Facebook if they would like a personal autographed copy.
Sha, you have absolutely just really touched so many hearts and so many lives, and I thank you so much for just coming on the show and sharing all of the drama and trauma and pain, and just to have to relive that, just explaining and telling the story, it's just amazing. And I'm so proud of you for selecting faith over fear.
Yes.
Because we can make choices anytime we want to, and you chose faith over fear, and I'm so happy about that. So thank you very much for joining us, Sha, and I wish you all of God's favor as you go forward in your ministry and in your work.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to be right back with our Design Your Life segment, and I just want to say to everyone, never allow your dramas and your traumas to define you. No matter if you fall down or feel down, get up. Never ever ease up, give up, let up, or shut up until God takes you up. We'll be right back with Design Your Life.
Next time on Living by Design.
Hi, I am Kathy Holloway Hill, and welcome to the Living by Design show.
A great experience for the women because they do work with a personal shopper one-on-one. Our personal shoppers are volunteers. We have a large army of volunteers.
Another goal is to learn to let other people live their own lives.
Is to help other people. I just pray every day to give me an opportunity to bless or help other people.
They told us to write down what we wanted to be, and I wrote an NFL coach. And I gave that to my civics teacher, and he said, you can't do that because women aren't allowed.
Don't miss Living by Design, Sundays at 6 p.m. on WHMB TV 40.
Hi, we're back with our Design Your Life segment, and we're taking a question today from Joanne out of Indianapolis. And Joanne would like to know, I have set a goal for weight loss, and I have tried every single diet that exists on the planet, and I would like to know what is preventing me from accomplishing this goal. Well, Joanne, here's what I would like to share with you. You can try every diet on the planet, and you can try however many times you want to attempt to lose weight, but it's not the diet and it's not in a pill. It's a mindset change. And once you decide that you have transformed, because that's what our topic has been about today, a journey of transformation. Once you have decided you want to transform and you have made that decision in your mind, and I'm also going to add that you have to choose faith over fear, and you really have to believe. Once you have that belief solidified in your mind and your subconscious, then your actions and your behaviors will begin to align around it. So you need to visualize yourself as you want to be. And once you visualize yourself at the weight that you want to be, your target weight, you see it and then you'll believe it. A lot of people say, I'll believe it when I see it, but that's backwards. You have to see it, visualize it, see it over and over and over and over, and then choose, make healthy food choices, and take it gradually, take it slow, put yourself on a timeline, create SMART goals, and that's how you make your dream your reality. I'm Kathy Holloway Hill, and we thank you for joining us for this episode of Living by Design. And remember, I always say, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. We'll see you next week.